The massive human exploration vessel Starfinder drifted slowly through the darkness of space, its gleaming hull reflecting distant starlight. The ship carried Earth's finest diplomats and researchers, venturing deeper into unexplored space than any human vessel before it. Captain Roberts stood at the bridge's observation window, his weathered face showing both excitement and concern. The ship's sensors had detected advanced artificial structures ahead, the first proof of intelligent alien life humanity had ever encountered. "Multiple ships approaching, Captain," reported Officer Lisa from her station. "Their energy signatures don't match anything in our database." The bridge crew watched in amazement as sleek, crystalline vessels emerged from the darkness. Their designs were organic, almost fluid-like, completely different from the utilitarian human ships. "They're hailing us," Lisa announced, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Translation software is running. The main screen flickered to life, revealing beings that looked like tall, graceful humanoids with iridescent skin and large, expressive eyes. The lead alien spoke, their words transformed by the computer into English. "Greetings, unknown vessels. We are representatives of the Starborn Alliance. We welcome peaceful contact with new species." The initial meetings went surprisingly well. The Alliance members were fascinated by humanity's rapid technological progress and adaptability. They invited the human delegation aboard their main ship for diplomatic discussions. The problems began during the shared meal ceremony, a traditional Alliance custom for welcoming new species. The human diplomats sat at a crystal table alongside various alien representatives, each species with their own specially prepared dishes. "This is a traditional Earth dish," explained Dr. Bill, unwrapping his packed lunch. "We call it a hamburger." He took a large bite, the juice running down his chin. The Alliance members watched in growing horror as the humans casually consumed what they recognized as processed animal protein. Some of them turned away, their iridescent skin paling noticeably. You eat other creatures?" asked the Alliance leader, their voice trembling slightly. "Well, yes," replied Captain Robert, pausing with his fork halfway to his mouth. "We're omnivores." "Is that unusual?" The Alliance members exchanged worried glances. Their society was built entirely on synthesized nutrients and plant matter. The concept of consuming other living beings was deeply disturbing to them. The tension in the room grew when Officer Lisa started describing various Earth cuisines, including seafood, barbecue, and hunting traditions. With each description, the Alliance members became more unsettled. However, the diplomatic crisis was temporarily forgotten when emergency alerts began blaring throughout the Alliance vessel. Red lights pulsed as urgent messages flooded the communication channels. "It's attacked another colony," one of the Alliance officers reported, their voice shaking. "The beast has struck again." Captain Robert leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Beast? What beast?" The Alliance leader hesitated before activating a holographic display. The image showed a massive creature moving through space, its dark form blotting out stars. Its body was covered in armor-like plates, with multiple limbs ending in razor-sharp claws. Acid seemed to drip from its maws, freezing instantly in the vacuum of space. "The terror of the void," explained the Alliance leader. "It has destroyed 3 of our colonies in the past cycle. Our weapons cannot penetrate its hide. Its blood dissolves our ships' hulls. We've lost countless lives trying to stop it." The humans exchanged glances, but their expressions weren't of fear. They showed interest, curiosity, and something that made the Alliance members deeply uncomfortable. "Hunger. Perhaps," said Captain Robert slowly, "we could help you with this problem." He smiled, not noticing how the Alliance members shuddered at his display of teeth. Humanity has quite a bit of experience dealing with dangerous creatures. The Alliance leader would later write in their personal log that this was the moment they realized they had made contact with something far more terrifying than the beast, a species that looked at the galaxy's most feared monster and saw not a threat, but an opportunity for dinner. Little did they know, This was just the beginning of humanity's most ambitious hunting expedition. In the massive conference room aboard the Starfinder, Alliance scientists projected detailed scans of the terror of the void. The creature's true size became apparent as the hologram filled nearly half the chamber, causing even the seasoned human officers to whistle in appreciation. The beast measures approximately 2 kilometers in length, explained the Alliance researcher, their voice quivering. Its outer shell consists of an unknown metallic compound harder than any material we've encountered. Our strongest weapons barely scratch it. Captain Robert walked around the hologram, studying it with the keen eye of a veteran hunter. The creature resembled a mix between an earth whale and a prehistoric armored fish, but with dozens of segmented limbs and multiple rows of teeth that would make a shark jealous. "Tell us about its hunting patterns," requested Dr. Bill, taking notes on his tablet. The way he studied the beast's anatomy made several Alliance members uncomfortable. He wasn't looking at it with fear, but rather like a butcher evaluating a prize cow. The hologram shifted to show attack footage. The beast moved with impossible speed for its size, using its massive limbs to tear through spacecraft like paper. Its multiple eyes glowed with an eerie intelligence as it systematically destroyed colony defenses. "It seems to prefer attacking our energy production facilities," the researcher continued. "We believe it feeds on our power cores. The beast can survive direct exposure to reactor radiation. In fact, it appears to grow stronger from it." Officer Lisa raised her hand. "What about its biological functions? Body temperature, waste products?" "Its blood is highly corrosive. Temperature measurements suggest it's close to pure acid. The beast generates massive amounts of heat during movement, visible on thermal scans. As for waste," the researcher paused, looking ill. "It appears to digest everything it consumes completely. Nothing is wasted." The human scientists exchanged excited glances. Captain Robert noticed their enthusiasm and cleared his throat. "Could you explain the beast's normal hunting grounds and typical behavior patterns?" The hologram expanded to show a map of nearby systems. Red dots indicated attack sites, forming a clear pattern of movement through space. The beast appeared to follow energy signatures, moving from one colony to another like a massive space-borne shark. "Each attack follows a similar pattern," explained another Alliance member. "It disables communication arrays first, then systematically destroys defensive installations. The beast shows tactical intelligence. It's not just a mindless creature." Dr. Bill nodded, his eyes gleaming. "Intelligent prey makes for the best hunt, and the most flavorful meat." The Alliance members froze, their iridescent skin turning almost transparent with shock. One of them actually fainted. You can't possibly be thinking of eating it," stammered the lead researcher. "Why not?" asked Officer Lisa, genuinely puzzled. "Based on these readings, its flesh would be perfectly edible for humans once the acid is neutralized. We've dealt with dangerous creatures before. Ever heard of fugufish? Properly prepared poison can add exciting flavor." Captain Robert stepped in before the Alliance members could panic further. "What my crew means is that we believe we can help you deal with this threat. Humanity has extensive experience in handling dangerous wildlife." "But the acid blood," protested an Alliance scientist. "The armored hide, the radiation. All interesting challenges," agreed Dr. Bill, still making notes. "But nothing we haven't seen before in some form. Did you know humans once hunted giant armored sea creatures called whales? We turned them into oil, food, and tools." The human team began discussing hunting strategies, comparing the beast to various Earth creatures they'd successfully hunted throughout history. They debated the best methods to pierce its armor, disable its limbs, and neutralize its acid blood. The Alliance members watched in growing horror as these newcomers to space casually planned the takedown of their most dreaded enemy, not for defense, but for consumption. One Alliance officer whispered to another, "Perhaps we should be more worried about the humans than the beast." They had no idea that this was just the beginning of humanity's hunting expertise. The terror of the void was about to meet something it had never encountered before, a species that had evolved as persistence hunters, capable of turning any creature, no matter how dangerous, into a meal. The vast expanse of space lit up with engine flares as the combined human alliance fleet moved into position. The Starfinder led the formation, accompanied by 3 specialized hunting vessels that the humans had quickly modified for this mission. "Target detected at bearing 047, announced Officer Lisa, her eyes fixed on the sensor display. "It's exactly where the tracking algorithm predicted." The Alliance ships held back at a safe distance, their crews watching in disbelief as the human vessels pushed forward into hunting range. Captain Robert stood at the command center, a smile playing on his weathered face. "Launch the sonic probes," he ordered. "Let's see how our friend reacts to a little Earth-style hunting music." The probes shot out into space, forming a wide net around their target area. They began emitting specific frequencies that the humans had calculated would travel through space and irritate the beast's sensory organs. "Sir," called out the sensor operator. "Movement detected. It's big, really big." The terror of the void emerged from the darkness, its massive form blocking out distant stars. Up close, it was even more terrifying than the holograms had suggested. Its armored plates shifted and gleamed, dozens of eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. "All hands to hunting stations," Captain Robert commanded calmly. "Begin Phase 1. The Alliance observers watched in shock as the human ships didn't retreat. Instead, they moved into an attack formation that seemed suicidal, deliberately placing themselves within range of the beast's powerful limbs. "Are they insane?" whispered an Alliance commander, watching the tactical display. "The creature will tear them apart." But the humans had studied their prey well. As the beast lunged for the nearest ship, bright flashes erupted from specialized ports along the vessel's hull. The humans had developed a unique strobe pattern designed to confuse the creature's multiple eyes. The beast recoiled, its coordinated attack turning into an awkward flailing of limbs. The human ships pressed their advantage, launching specially designed harpoons that could pierce the armored hide while delivering a powerful electric charge. "Look at that beautiful nervous system response," Dr. Bill exclaimed from his research station. "The electrical conductivity is even better than we hoped." The beast roared, a sound that somehow carried through the vacuum of space, making the Alliance ships' hulls vibrate. It tried to retreat, but the humans had anticipated this. More ships emerged from hiding, cutting off its escape routes. "Release the nets," ordered Captain Robert. Massive energy nets deployed between the ships, each designed to withstand both the creature's strength and its acid blood. The beast thrashed wildly, but with each movement, it became more entangled. The Alliance fleet watched in stunned silence as the humans coordinated their attack with practiced efficiency. Every time the beast tried to use one of its devastating tactics, the humans countered with something unexpected. When it spat acid, specialized shields absorbed and neutralized it. When it tried to ram the ships, they used its own momentum to further entangle it. "These humans," muttered an Alliance scientist, "they're not just fighting it. They're playing with it." Indeed, there was an almost sporting quality to the humans' actions. They called out encouragement to each other, celebrated successful hits, and even seemed to be enjoying themselves. "That's it, beautiful," Captain Robert murmured as the beast's movements began to slow. "Just like landing a marlin, if the marlin was the size of a small moon." The final phase of the hunt involved specially designed sedative harpoons, their payloads calculated based on the creature's estimated body mass. As the last one found its mark, the terror of the void's movements became sluggish. "Target is secured," announced Officer Lisa. "Vital signs are stable. We can begin transport to the processing facility." The Alliance ships approached cautiously, still not quite believing what they had witnessed. Their most dreaded enemy, the unstoppable terror that had destroyed entire colonies, had been captured in less than 3 hours by a species that had only recently achieved spaceflight. But what truly terrified them was the excitement in the humans' voices as they discussed the next phase: preparation and cooking. The hunt had been impressive, but what came next would truly test the Alliance's diplomatic tolerance. The massive containment facility aboard the human processing ship, Butcher's Bay, hummed with activity. Engineer Tom stood before the observation window, watching as robotic arms carefully maneuvered the sedated terror of the void into position. "Beautiful specimen," he remarked, checking readings on his tablet. "Hardly any damage to the prime cuts during capture." The Alliance observers huddled in the far corner of the observation deck, their iridescent skin fluctuating between shades of pale green and sickly white. They watched in horrified fascination as the humans efficiently prepared to process a creature that had terrorized their civilization for generations. "Beginning acid neutralization sequence," announced the facility's eye. Specialized chemical sprays covered the beast's massive form, turning its naturally corrosive secretions inert. Engineer Tom directed his team with the precision of a master craftsman. "Carefully now. Those outer plates will make excellent trophies. Mark my words, restaurants back on Earth will pay a fortune for certified terror steaks." The beast stirred slightly, its multiple eyes flickering. The sedation had to be precisely maintained. Too little, and it might wake up. Too much, and it could taint the meat. The humans had calculated the dosage with remarkable accuracy, keeping the creature in a twilight state between consciousness and sleep. "Look at those muscle formations," Dr. Bill said excitedly, pointing at the scan results. "The radiation exposure has created unique protein structures. This could revolutionize our understanding of xenobiology." The processing chamber filled with a series of mechanical whirs as specialized cutting tools were brought into position. Each was designed to handle the creature's unique biology, from its armored hide to its dense muscle tissue. "Beginning primary incision," announced the technician at the control panel. A massive laser cutter powered up, its beam precisely calibrated to slice through the beast's outer armor without damaging the meat beneath. The Alliance representatives couldn't help but lean forward, despite their revulsion. Never had they imagined seeing the terror of the void helpless, being systematically disassembled like a common livestock animal. "Each section needs to be properly tagged and classified," Engineer Tom instructed his team. "I want full nutrient analysis, texture profiles, and taste projections for every cut." The facility's sorting systems sprang into action. Conveyor belts carried different parts of the creature to specialized storage units. Some pieces went to the research labs for study, others to the kitchen for experimental cooking, and the most dangerous parts to secure containment. "The acid glands alone will advance our industrial capabilities by decades," Dr. Bill noted, examining a particularly interesting specimen. "And these neural tissues. Fascinating. The creature's brain structure suggests it might have been artificially enhanced at some point." The Alliance scientists perked up at this information, momentarily forgetting their disgust. "Enhanced? By whom?" "We'll figure that out later," Engineer Tom said dismissively. "Right now, we need to focus on proper preservation. Can't let any of this go to waste." Hour after hour, the humans worked with methodical efficiency. They treated the process with a respect that surprised their alien observers. This wasn't merely butchery, but a complex operation requiring both scientific precision and practical expertise. "Look at the marbling in these muscle fibers," a food scientist exclaimed, examining a sample under a microscope. "The radiation exposure has created patterns I'd never seen before. This could be the most unique meat humanity has ever encountered." By the time the primary processing was complete, the terror of the void had been transformed from an unstoppable space monster into neatly organized containers of potential food and research materials. The humans seemed immensely satisfied with their work. The Alliance representatives couldn't decide what disturbed them more: the methodical way the humans had dismantled their greatest nightmare, or the fact that they were now discussing cooking techniques and wine pairings for their next meal. Engineer Tom made one final note on his tablet before turning to his team. "Excellent work, everyone. Now comes the fun part: figuring out how to serve this at the diplomatic dinner without causing an interstellar incident. The humans laughed at what they considered a joke. The Alliance representatives didn't laugh. They were too busy wondering what kind of species could look at the galaxy's most feared predator and see not a monster, but an opportunity for a gourmet meal. The massive kitchen aboard the Starfinder bustled with activity, filled with aromas that made the Alliance representatives deeply uncomfortable. Head Chef Mark stood at the central preparation station, carefully examining various cuts from the terror of the void. "The radiation exposure has tenderized these muscles beautifully," he remarked, pressing a testing probe into a massive slab of dark meat. "And the marbling pattern is unlike anything I've ever seen." The kitchen staff moved with practiced efficiency, each member focused on their specialized tasks. Some worked on neutralizing the remaining traces of acid in the meat, while others experimented with different marinades and cooking methods. "The outer layer needs to be seared at extremely high temperatures," Chef Mark instructed, demonstrating the technique on a smaller piece. "The armor-enhanced muscle fibers require intense heat to break down properly." A specialized plasma cooker, normally used for preparing the toughest earth meats, roared to life. The surface temperature climbed past 1,000 degrees Celsius, causing even the heat-resistant Alliance observers to back away. "Watch this," the chef said with pride, placing a seasoned cut onto the scorching surface. The meat sizzled and popped, releasing an aroma that made the humans' mouths water and the Alliance members gag. "The key is in the timing," he continued, flipping the piece with practiced precision. "Too long, and the radiation-enhanced proteins become too tough. Too short, and you risk dangerous bacterial growth." In another section of the kitchen, the sauce team worked on complementary flavors. They had discovered that certain compounds in the beast's flesh reacted uniquely with earth spices, creating entirely new taste combinations. "Try this reduction," called out one of the sous chefs, offering a small spoon to Chef Mark. The sauce glowed slightly, a side effect of the creature's natural bioluminescence. The Alliance representatives watched in horror as the humans casually tasted various preparations, discussing flavors and textures as if they weren't consuming parts of the most feared creature in known space. "The acid-treated portions have an interesting citrus-like tang," noted Chef Mark, making adjustments to his recipes. "We'll pair that with earth wasabi. The heat should complement it nicely." The preparation continued throughout the day. Different cuts were subjected to various cooking methods. Some were slow-roasted in radiation-proof ovens, others were flash-frozen and shaved into delicate carpaccio, and still others were preserved for future experimentation. "The organ meats are particularly challenging," reported the offal specialist, working with what had once been part of the creature's multiple hearts. "But they're incredibly nutrient-rich. We're thinking of making a pâté." Dr. Bill visited regularly, collecting samples and providing insight into the beast's biology. "The muscle density suggests it could compress itself for faster-than-light travel," he explained, examining a particularly tough section. "That's why these cuts need such extreme cooking methods." The Alliance scientists, despite their revulsion, couldn't help but be impressed by the humans' methodical approach. They had transformed the processing of a terrifying space monster into something approaching an art form. "Tomorrow's diplomatic dinner will be historic," Chef Mark announced to his team. "We're not just preparing a meal. We're demonstrating humanity's ability to adapt and overcome. Every dish needs to be perfect." The kitchen staff nodded in agreement, their pride evident. They understood the significance of their task, proving that humans could not only hunt the galaxy's most dangerous predator, but transform it into haute cuisine. As the day wound down, the final preparations were stored in stasis units, ready for the next day's service. Chef Mark made one last round of inspections, checking each dish and sauce. The Alliance representatives, who had watched the entire process, filed their report to their superiors. Their conclusion was clear. The humans weren't just physically capable of handling dangerous creatures, they had developed an entire culture around it. They took what other species feared and turned it into celebration. In their report, one phrase stood out: The humans don't just conquer their fears. They season them, cook them, and serve them with wine. Perhaps this is why they appear so fearless. To them, every monster is potentially just another meal. The grand dining hall aboard the Starfinder had been transformed for the historic diplomatic dinner. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow over tables, decorated with both human and Alliance ceremonial items. The air filled with an array of aromas that drew very different reactions from the gathered species. Captain Robert stood at the head of the main table, raising a glass of earth wine. Today, we celebrate not just a successful hunt, but the beginning of a deeper understanding between our peoples, he announced, as servers began bringing out the first course. Chef Mark had organized the menu to gradually introduce the Alliance representatives to the concept of consuming the terror of the void. The first dish was a delicate carpaccio, thin, nearly transparent slices of the beast's most tender flesh, artfully arranged with earth herbs and glowing sauce. This cut comes from the creature's auxiliary swimming muscles, Chef Mark explained, watching as the human diners eagerly lifted their forks. We've paired it with a light citrus dressing to complement its natural flavors. The Alliance members watched in fascinated horror as their human counterparts consumed the dish with evident pleasure. Several of them recorded the scene with their personal devices, presumably for scientific documentation. "The texture is remarkable," commented Dr. Bill between bites. "The radiation exposure created protein structures unlike anything in Earth cuisine." The second course arrived, a rich soup made from the creature's bone marrow, garnished with vegetables from both Earth and Alliance worlds. Steam rose from the bowls, carrying complex aromas that made even some of the more squeamish Alliance members lean forward in curiosity. "We've neutralized all harmful radiation and acidic compounds," Chef Mark assured the gathering, while maintaining the unique flavors they imparted to the meat. As the courses progressed, the presentations became more elaborate. A roasted section of primary tentacle, its outer layer crispy and caramelized. Steamed dumplings filled with minced meat from the creature's multiple hearts. Each dish was accompanied by carefully selected wines and detailed explanations of preparation methods. "Notice how the meat changes color when exposed to different temperatures," Chef Mark demonstrated, preparing the main course tableside. The massive steak, cut from the beast's core muscle group, sizzled dramatically on a superheated stone. The Alliance diplomats found themselves torn between disgust and grudging admiration. The humans had taken something they considered a nightmare and transformed it into an art form. Every dish showed not just technical skill, but genuine respect for the creature's unique properties. "The beast's bioluminescent properties have been preserved in this sauce," explained a server, pouring a gently glowing liquid over perfectly grilled portions. "When heated, it creates a natural light show." Even those Alliance members who couldn't bring themselves to eat watched in amazement as the humans continued to dine with enthusiasm. They took notes on human eating habits, their ability to consume what should have been toxic materials, and their evident enjoyment of the process. The feast reached its climax with a spectacular dessert, a frozen confection made with extracts from the creature's neural tissue, creating patterns that shifted and moved across the surface of each serving. "This might be our most ambitious creation," Chef Mark admitted proudly. "The neural proteins create a unique sensation. Each bite tastes slightly different as the flavors evolve." Throughout the meal, the humans engaged in lively discussion about hunting techniques, favorite recipes, and plans for future expeditions. The Alliance representatives gradually realized that this wasn't just a meal, it was a demonstration of humanity's core nature. Captain Robert stood again for a final toast. "To new friendships and future hunts," he declared. "May we continue to turn the universe's challenges into opportunities for celebration." The Alliance members raised their glasses hesitantly, still processing what they had witnessed. Their most dreaded enemy had been transformed into a gourmet feast, served with wine pairings and elegant presentation. As the dinner concluded, one Alliance diplomat was overheard whispering to another, "Perhaps we should be grateful these humans consider us friends rather than food." The human server who overheard this simply smiled and offered them another glass of wine. 1 month after the historic feast, the Starfinder's crew gathered in the observation lounge, watching Alliance ships arrive for their new joint training program. The view outside showed dozens of vessels, their crystalline hulls reflecting starlight. "Hard to believe how much has changed," Captain Robert remarked, sipping his morning coffee. The cup's handle was made from polished terror bone, a gift from Engineer Tom's crafting department. The Alliance's official classification of humanity had undergone several revisions. Initially labeled as potentially hostile predators, humans were now categorized as valuable hunting specialists, with a subcategory of culinary innovators. Their ability to turn threats into opportunities had revolutionized Alliance thinking. "We've received 16 new requests for joint hunting expeditions," Officer Liza reported, reviewing the latest communications. "Apparently, there's another space beast causing trouble in the Orient sector. The Alliance is specifically requesting our expertise." The diplomatic impact of the Terror Feast continued to ripple through galactic society. Alliance members who had once feared humanity now sought their advice on handling dangerous creatures. Several Alliance worlds had even cautiously begun experimenting with eating meat, strictly from synthesized sources, of course. The research teams made some fascinating discoveries, Dr. Bill announced, bringing up holographic displays of the creature's analyzed tissue samples. The beast's ability to survive in space has led to breakthroughs in radiation shielding. We've already adapted some of its biological processes for our new ship designs. The Starfinder itself had been modified with technology inspired by the Terror. Its hull now incorporated elements derived from the creature's armor plating, while its sensor systems mimicked the beast's remarkable perception abilities. Chef Mark had become something of a celebrity among both humans and aliens. His cookbook, From Terror to Table, a guide to extreme xenogastronomy, was surprisingly popular even among Alliance species who would never actually eat the dishes described. "They're fascinated by the process," he explained to his kitchen staff. "It's not just about eating. It's about facing fears and turning them into something positive." The remaining preserved portions of the Terror had become valuable diplomatic gifts. Small, carefully prepared pieces were presented to Alliance leaders as symbols of human ingenuity and cooperation. Even those who found the concept disturbing kept them as remarkable curiosities. The psychological impact was more significant than the physical victory, noted the ship's counselor during a staff meeting. "We showed them that no challenge is insurmountable. Anything can be analyzed, understood, and potentially turned into dinner." Trade between humans and the Alliance flourished. Earth exports now included hunting expertise, cooking technologies, and specialized equipment for handling dangerous creatures. In return, the Alliance shared their vast knowledge of space travel and stellar engineering. "We've received an interesting proposal," Captain Robert announced to his senior staff. "The Alliance wants to establish a joint training facility. They want to learn human methods of problem solving, our ability to see resources where others see threats." The impact extended beyond military and culinary spheres. Alliance artists began incorporating themes of transformation into their works, inspired by humanity's ability to change their perspective on fearsome things. Some even created installations using preserved parts of the Terror, though they still couldn't quite understand the human fascination with consuming it. "Next week's assignment should be interesting," Officer Lisa mentioned, reviewing their orders. "Apparently, there's a crystalline entity consuming entire asteroid fields. The Alliance is actually excited to see how we handle it." Captain Robert smiled, remembering how far they'd come from that first awkward diplomatic dinner. "Send a message to Chef Mark," he said. "Tell him to start researching recipes for crystalline life forms. Let's keep our options open." As the Starfinder prepared for its next mission, the crew reflected on how a single hunting expedition had changed the course of human-alien relations. They had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons, but their ability to face the unknown with curiosity and adaptability. The Terror of the Void, once the most feared creature in known space, had been transformed into a symbol of cooperation between species. Its remains continued to serve as a reminder that with the right perspective, even the most terrifying challenges could become opportunities for growth, understanding, and occasionally, a really good meal.